President Zuma has just toured some of the hospital's most prestigious facilities. He says if he were a journalist, he would quote this to be the best hospital in the world. I'm here at Castle Stadium where tennis legend Venus Williams will be making her first appearance since the Wimbledon final. So I'm here at the Red Flag Nature Reserve where the body of River the lion was found exactly right here. Cell phone thefts have gone up 54% in the nation's capital. Now, if you're one of those people that likes to text or take a picture in the middle of the sidewalk, you might become a part of the statistic. Come back here. If you're planning on using the DC Metro this weekend, you might want to check and make sure that you have enough money to get to where you're going. The family of the late Ahmed Tamol have finally received the justice that he's deserved. After 46 long years, his death has in fact not been ruled a suicide, but a murder. If you'll hear behind me, hundreds of people from all over the country started at the NRA in Virginia and 18 miles later landed here at the Department of Justice in Washington. To the NRA, they say, we will not remain silent. The NRA recently released a promotional video that some say is a call to action against protesters. They argue that anyone with a permit should be allowed to carry a gun without negative consequences.
We have encountered so much police violence in the state of Minnesota, and we still have not been able to get accountability under the law.
In response, protesters ask, what about Philando Castile?
They had an ample opportunity to speak out against what happened to Philando Castile, seeing that he was a licensed gun owner who was gunned down by a police officer. Had Philando Castile been white, I would argue that they would have been much more aggressive in asserting our Second Amendment right to bear arms.
The Women's March demands an apology for the NRA's response, and some members don't agree.
Someone says that the NRA is suppressing rights for minorities and what have you. That's simply factually not true.
Both groups were determined to vocalize their frustration as they made their way to the Department of Justice.
Guns aren't what kill people. It's irresponsible gun owners that kill people.
For defense or for target shooting, they're for hunting.
Tensions rose when members from the NRA began confronting protesters.
They're lethal weapons. The result is almost always death.
Many say Philando Castile's case questions gun permits and what it really means to have one, especially as a person of color. For KARE in Washington, I'm Angel Idowu. The family of the late Ahmed Tamol have finally received the justice that he's deserved. After 46 long years, his death has in fact not been ruled a suicide, but a murder. Now, if you look behind me, you'll see the South African Communist Party is celebrating because after 46 long years, they have closure. The death of the late Ahmed Tamol has been declared a murder according to Judge Motile.
We have been working on it for almost 2.5 years, and this judgment this morning justified our efforts.
This historic ruling is the first time an anti-apartheid activist has received justice for their death while detained.
Ahmed Tamol did not commit suicide, did not die in police custody, but he was killed and murdered in police detention. I think for me, apart from being totally overwhelmed, that this particular leg of the journey has come to an end.
This ruling has proved that apartheid armed forces did kill and torture detainees.
What has been presented in court today as the judgment can never give the full truth, because we don't have the actual witnesses, the perpetrators of the crime. All I can say is, from my point of view, if I was so devastatingly tortured, where I was near death, surely Ahmed Tamol was in a similar situation.
João Rodrigues has testified that he saw Tamol jump and is expected to be tried as an accomplice in his death. This is just the beginning for all who have lost loved ones at the hands of the apartheid armed forces. Angel Idowu, Pretoria News. Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal of the 7th District in the state of Washington met with students at the White House to discuss immigration. Asian Pacific Islander students of all ages gathered to make sure the stories of their immigrant and refugee parents were known.
Refugees are resilient and here to stay.
Immigration laws continue to be a constant battle for many undocumented people in the United States. But there is one minority group that may go unnoticed.
The conversation around immigration in particular has been so dominated by the kind of Mexican issue and Latinos in that conversation. Asians and APIs in general are often kind of left out of the immigration conversation.
Asian Pacific Islander immigrant and refugee communities gathered at the White House hoping to change their narrative.
Making my voice heard in the way that we're trying to humanize refugees, right? We're trying to humanize immigrants.
Ben Tran is a college student. He says it's because of his father's sacrifice he is there today.
My father is a refugee. He fled Vietnam, stayed in a refugee camp in Malaysia and then Thailand for a good few months before he was able to come to the United States.
The Asian community is predicted to be the largest immigration population by 2055.
When you think back to, my state of Washington, Chinese laborers built the infrastructure there, built the railroads. There's so much that Asian Pacific Islanders have contributed, and there's so much discrimination.
All were in agreement that inclusion is key.
We're all the same people, we still all are striving for the same successes, the same goals.
And for immigrant neighbors who can no longer find any secure place to stand.
This is not a hierarchy of oppressions. This is about all of us coming together and lifting up the voices of everybody that's affected.
The students say their rally at the White House is only the beginning. In Washington, I'm Angel Idowu.